So welcome to What's Up with Energy, a GridX podcast. I'm your host, Georgia Knapp. Today, we are going to be talking about the role of heat pumps in smart energy systems, and also learning a little bit more about the company Enpal, because with me today, I have Dr. Wolfgang Gründinger, Chief Evangelist of Enpal. So Wolfgang, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hello, Georgia. Thanks for the invite. I'm happy to be here.
So actually, before we get started into Enpal and the heat pump topic, we have had another guest on this podcast in the past who's also called themselves a renewable energy evangelist. And your job title is literally chief evangelist, because
That's true.
that's what I saw on LinkedIn, on your company page. And I was just wondering if you could explain what exactly that title entails?
Yeah, certainly. So it's not a new job function title. It actually stems from the 1980s, where Guy Kawasaki was the first official evangelist of a company, and that company was Apple at the time. And together with Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, it was Guy Kawasaki's mission to explain to the people at the time in the 1980s why they actually need a personal computer, because this was a very new technology at the time in the 1980s. And then you have to explain to the people why they need something they don't know that they need. Yeah. It was a very new thing at the time. And the same happens now today. Photovoltaic panels, they are a known popular technology, but heat pumps for the German market in particular are something very new. Then there is electric mobility. Germany does not belong to countries such as Norway or China, where, for instance, in China, every second new vehicle is electric, or in Norway, every new vehicle, like close to 100%, is electric. So here we have to explain a lot of things to people and explain why it makes sense for them to actually drive not with a fossil fuel engine anymore. And then something like a smart meter or even a virtual power plant. That's something really, really new. And people don't know about it. But people should understand what's ahead in terms of new technology, what's to come. And this is my job to just explain our mission, revolutionizing the energy sector and also the energy consumption at private homes. Because what happened in the past 20 years was just the beginning of the energy revolution. People became from energy consumers to energy producers, so to producers and consumers of energy at the same time. But now the next step is just ahead.
Okay. I had no idea that job title has been around and within the tech industry for so long. I come from the deep south in the US, so when we hear evangelist, it's typically just like a preacher at a mega church.
I even was asked at the airport by the security staff if I'm a preacher. So which church do you belong to? Is it no church? I'm very sorry. I apologize, officer. But indeed, even SAP, like a German tech firm, or Otto, which is a German like storehouse, a sort of German Amazon, if you will. They do have also evangelists. So it's a very common title in the tech industry, and actually quite well known within that sector. But of course, something that is not really widespread or commonly known.
Yeah. Okay. And then for any of our listeners who might not know, can you give just a brief explanation of what Enpal does and the primary focus of the company?
Enpal offers the entire ecosystem for photovoltaic systems, for heat pumps, energy trading with our energy manager Enpal One Plus, a smart meter operation, and wall boxes for your electric vehicle at home. So this is an integrated ecosystem that also connects your system to the market and trades the battery on the market, so that you can buy the cheapest electricity on the market. So when electricity is cheap,
Okay. And how long has Enpal been around?
Enpal now celebrated its 8th birthday. I'm with the company now for 4 years, a bit more than 4 years. When I joined Enpal, it was still a very small company. A few hundred
Okay.
employees, a few hundred PV systems per month, which is already quite big for a
Yeah.
startup. A few hundred employees. I mean, when Instagram was sold to Facebook at the, back then, I think it had 34 employees or so and was a billion worth
Yeah.
company.
And then as you guys expanded over the past 8 years, obviously when companies go from startup to scale up, they sometimes have to make the decision between internationalization and specialization. And it sounds like you guys might have done both.
What we did is we actually started as a very specialized company. So we did it the other way around, basically. We started with PV, with video cells and a
Mhm.
rental system only. We did nothing else but a PV for rental, so a leasing system for photovoltaic systems in Germany only with video cells. That was our one trick pony.
Okay.
And then we expanded from there. So then we introduced a flexible financing option so that people could not only rent our PV systems, but also buy them and also flexibly finance them with a very highly flexible financing scheme. We added storage batteries to our portfolio. Then we added our wall box to our
Hmm.
portfolio. We added smart meters to our portfolio and the heat pump eventually to our portfolio. We also developed over time our own virtual power plant system, our own AI-based energy manager called Enpal One Plus.
Okay.
So it's a sort of an Amazon Prime for local installers of heat pumps and of PV systems. We also offer services to them, like our financing scheme or rooftop planning services. That's also available to independent installers. So we also support our competitors, if you will, because we see it not as competition, we see it as a friendly competition. Frenemies, so friends and enemies at the same time. So a friendly competition because the mission of the energy transition and the mission of climate protection is higher in our view than fighting against local installers as competitors.
Okay. And then as you were naming the assets that you guys added to your portfolios, heat pumps was the last, if not one of the last ones. Were you
One
naming them in like the order that you
roughly,
incorporated
yeah,
them?
roughly in the order we added the heat pump 2.5 years ago, right after Putin's attack on Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we were like, okay, now we have to speed up our heat pump
Mm,
introduction. It was our master plan forever,
yeah,
but then we had to just make that more quickly,
just make the
and
jump.
then within not even 3 years, we became Germany's biggest heat pump installer, which is just an insane success of our company, rolling out as many heat pumps as no one else did so far in this country. And despite all the heated debate around heat pumps in the last couple of years, um, because Germany, I think, is the only country on earth where the heat pump is not only an efficient heating system, the heat pump is also a very woke, green, leftist, and progressive heating system. And I don't understand why that is. But it has, due to a campaign by far right activists and also some conservative politicians and like a
Mm,
big media debate, it for some reason acquired that image. But despite all this, the heat pump is now, as we speak, in the year 2025, the number one heating system of all Germans. So there, it's the number. It's like the favorite heating system people buy here because Germans are not stupid. They know, despite all the ideological fights that go on in politics, that it's just more efficient and cheaper than in the long
yeah.
run than other systems. So this is why they buy the heat pumps and not gas heating systems anymore.
I mean, usually when I think of something that's like quote unquote woke, it's usually something like very sleek and like very digital, but heat pumps, they're massive. Like they're massive and
They can be
they're
massive.
great. Like
Yeah.
I've only ever seen giant ones. Do they actually come? Like I've seen ones that are I'm about 175 centimeters tall. I've only seen them about that size. Do they
No,
come smaller?
no. I mean, there's different size systems, of course, and also
Okay.
different designs. But usually I just hop on a heat pump to sit on it. So they are usually small.
Okay, so you can't
So
get
they are,
that.
but of course it depends on the size of your house and how much, heat you need. So they come in different shapes and sizes, like humans basically, come also in different shapes and
Yeah,
sizes and
true.
colors. Yeah. Yeah. And the more popular heat pumps get, the more also the manufacturers put
True.
effort into the design. Right now, they look sometimes
Yeah.
they look like really like design objects that you put in your garden. Um, they used to look like really kind of crappy and shitty, but now as the heat pump becomes more and more popular, manufacturers do put more effort in also the design of the heat pumps, so they actually look good. And I hear many stories of neighbors who just say, "Hey, is there a heat pump in your garden? Can I have a look at it? How loud is it? Um, does it really make your house warm?" This is still Germany, right? So heat pump is a very new thing here. Um,
Yeah.
like it's very odd because in Scandinavia, so Northern Europe, heat or also in Canada, where it's also cold in winter, heat pumps are something that is just natural. If you say to someone in Sweden or in Norway, uh, yeah, you can't do this here because it's too complicated and it doesn't warm your house. Uh, the Norwegian guy would just say, "Hey, my winters are colder than yours." Yeah, but still, it's information deficit, and so the more popular the heat pump gets, and the more neighbors see um, in their neighborhoods that it's something that works, people also would do
Hmm.
it. It's something that spreads. So um, um, we are still dependent very much heavily on gas. Not from Russia
Hmm.
anymore because they like the Kremlin, they cut off the gas supply in summer 2022.
Hmm.
Um, but now from Norwegian gas with pipelines. But what
Hmm.
happens if the pipelines get cut off, get sabotaged? Then people
Yeah.
don't have gas anymore for their heating. And then
Yeah.
also our industry just lies down. And this is
Hmm.
something that is a real risk to our national security, to our
Hmm.
national sovereignty. And that makes us really vulnerable um, in terms of our infrastructure to foreign
Yeah.
powers. And this is why we need to get away from gas
Hmm.
and also electrify our heating, because uh, even if we would produce our entire electricity with gas only to to supply heat pumps with with electricity, even then it would be more efficient, and you would need less gas than now because heat pumps are just 3 to 4 times more efficient than gas heating systems. It's an
Hmm.
incredibly efficient technology with a efficiency of 300 to 400%, which is,
Oh, wow.
if you're a very good student in high school, you think is physically impossible,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you cannot have more efficiency than 100%.
Yeah.
Actually, what happens is that the heat pump gets one unit of energy out of electricity, but gets 3 to 4 units of energy out of the temperature outside of the air. And this is why it makes the heating system so efficient. It's unbeatable. And this is why it's our technology of choice now here in Germany, because it's just super smart to do. And that's why also the heat pump now becomes more and more popular. And this is why we also became so big in heat pumps with Enpal.
We actually just published our most recent heat pump report over the summer. And in it, we talk a lot about how the heat pump market in Europe was rising since I think we included a graphic from 2014, but then in 2024, the heat pump market suddenly went down. Like it was the sharpest downturn it's had in a decade. Besides the political side of it that you were talking about, can you think of any other reason why would the heat pump market suddenly start to fall when it was on such a nice upward trajectory for such a while?
So what happened in the German market is the following. After Putin's attack on Ukraine, gas prices just skyrocketed. So
Yeah.
this is why everyone wanted to have a heat pump overnight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so people wanted to buy heat pumps, and this is why also installation companies and manufacturers invested millions and millions in the scale up of their technology. Then gas prices fell drastically because the German government bought gas from all over the world, and also gas prices worldwide fell. So, and then at the same time, inflation has risen, interest rates have drastically risen, and there was lots of uncertainty around regulation and around the government subsidies. And what happens if you have lots of inflation, lots of insecurity, high interest rates, and decreasing gas prices, then you just wait and see what happens. Yeah, now we experience a growth in heat pump demand again. At Enpal, we never had issues with a lack of demand for some reason, but in the entire market, we do see a growth of demand for heat pumps again, because now there is more certainty around the political framework, and gas prices are still high. They are set to rise because of the European emission trading scheme, and also because of rising grid fees. And this is why people more and more, have more trust in their technology. And the wider it spreads, the more trust it creates, because people understand that it's working, it's efficient, and that when their neighbor does it, they also want to do it. And this is why I see that the heat pump, becoming more and more popular among people.
From a technical standpoint, what makes heat pumps so complex to scale rather than, say, like solar panels or EVs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed, heat pumps are more complex than photovoltaic systems, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? First of all, it has more parts. So it's maybe 400 and more singular components that are now put together to the heat pump.
Mm-hmm.
Then also you have to do a really tough and thorough planning for it, because if you don't do a very thorough and good planning, what happens? Either your house doesn't get warm, or the house does get warm, but you pay infinite amounts for the electricity in winter to make it warm.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want both. You want your house warm, and you don't want to pay too much for electricity to operate the heat pump. So the heat pump is a sort of the diva of the heating systems, because you have to manage it very well, otherwise it freaks out. And this is why many installers in the field, they have installed hundreds and hundreds and thousands of gas heating systems, but maybe a few heat pumps in their life. So many say, "Oh, I don't want this anymore." They tell the customer, "Oh, the heat pump doesn't work in your house." And by the way, I have a spare gas heating in my basement that I can install in your place. And this is why it needs new companies such as Enpal and others to actually put pressure on the market and make the heat pump a success.
And then, because obviously the name heat pump, so you're talking about heating a lot, but they also create cool air, right?
Depends on the system that you install. Some also are able
It's not
to.
every heat pump.
No, it's not every heat pump.
Okay.
So it depends on the system that you're installing. But of course, you can also connect an AC system to your PV system and to your heat pump. And
Yeah.
that makes sense again when you have a photovoltaic system at home, because when do you need the AC? When there is a lot of sunshine. So you can power your AC with your own solar rooftop produced energy. So that makes sense.
Okay. And then you mentioned that Enpal, you guys produce your own energy management system. How important do you see pairing a heat pump with an energy management system?
having an energy management system now is very imperative. Why is
Mm-hmm.
that? There is many aspects to it. First of all, as you say, the heat pump should be connected to an energy management system, because then you can heat up the storage, the water in the storage, when electricity on the market is cheap. Yeah, so this reduces your
Mm-hmm.
energy costs. Then second, usually you also buy a PV system and a battery when you have a heat pump, because it just makes sense. Then from spring to fall, you can just produce your own warm water for showering, or your own heating also when it's cold, when it's a cold day in fall or spring, with your own PV system. So your energy costs just fall drastically. So you save lots
Mm-hmm.
of costs when it comes to energy bill. And then third, when you want to buy electricity from the market, you rather do it now with a dynamic tariff.
And do you see heat pumps actually responding well to these dynamic prices? Because I mean, like an EV and a PV, they can respond very quickly, but a heat pump feels like it might be a little bit slower to react.
It's technically possible, but it depends on the energy management system that you have, and
Okay.
that in combination with the heat pump system that you have. So the respective manufacturer, the respective model of the heat pump. So this all needs to fit together, and then it becomes an integrated solution.
Are there any innovations in heat pump tech that you're excited about or know about right now?
Of course, they're getting better and better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're also getting more standardized, and then easier to install. In Germany, we have, next to cold winters, we also still have the old gas heating systems, and so the heat pump must be really um, individualized to the customers. And now new
Mm-hmm.
systems are coming up um, that make it easier to install, and then also cheaper. Still, I wouldn't wait for the next innovation to happen, because now there are still very good subsidies around, and no one knows how long they are going to be there. And heat pumps are already like a commodity, so you should buy them now if you need one. Um, but if you don't need one, you can also, of course, also wait if your heating system still works. There is no rush, but if it doesn't work or is very old, then your choice should be a heat pump right now.
And then, in addition to obviously a home energy management system, is there another home energy asset that you see as pairing perfectly with a heat pump?
Well, that's a good question. Like a photovoltaic system, of course, because then
Okay.
that's most basic. Everyone who has a PV system, we have 100,000 customers at Enpal. It's the biggest solar company in Europe, as I said, and
Hmm.
and then and then 10,000 of our customers already have a heat pump. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they say it does make sense for me if I produce my own free electricity from my solar rooftop, from like not in winter, obviously, but from
Hmm.
spring to fall, I can cover most or all of my heating for warm water, for instance, um, on cold days in spring or fall, also for the heating, with my own electricity that costs me nothing in marginal costs. Yeah, it's super cheap.
Mm, yeah.
So that combination makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, because we've now covered the heat pumps pretty well, and I think this has been a really great sales pitch for heat pumps in general. If you were to have to convince a heat pump skeptic, like what is maybe one or two sentences that you would use to pitch they need the heat pump now?
Yeah, I think people know themselves what they need, and I don't want to convince someone who is really against something. So, but I can, of course, it's a free country, it's a free society, and a free market. So every consumer does what he or he wants, and there is no need for me to convince everyone. Um, but I would say, really, really think about it, and uh, and um, and don't rush for that decision. If you are really against heat pumps, you might you might regret the decision to buy a gas heating in only a couple of years from now, because gas is
Mm,
getting more and more expensive for many
yeah.
reasons. First of all, it will never be so cheap anymore like Russian pipeline gas. Russian pipeline gas, it's subsidized by the Kremlin because they wanted to make Europe vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they were very successful with it. And the pipelines are destroyed. Russian cheap gas doesn't come anymore. So Norwegian gas is already more expensive. And then LNG gas, so liquefied natural gas, is even more expensive. Why? Because you have to liquefy it, then you have to transport it with freight cargo ships over the ocean, and then convert it again to gas to make it digestible for the German gas infrastructure. So this will always be more expensive. So gas doesn't get cheaper; it will be at least the same or be more expensive. Then also the grid fees for gas become more expensive. Why? Because less people need it. Because millions of people are switching to heat pumps. So the individual house owner has to pay more for the grid fees for gas. And then third, the European Union emission trading scheme, starting in 2027, will also make oil and gas more expensive. So you will regret that decision. I'm very certain about this. And in a few years from now, you can't just ask the government, oh, I made the wrong decision, even though you, dear government, and told me to switch to a heat pump. I still installed my old gas heating boiler. And now I want subsidies for my gas heating. That doesn't work like this. It's a free market. And so you're responsible for your own decisions. And it also doesn't change over the next couple of years. So also in a few years, you will regret that decision. So please maybe think twice, double check, talk to experts, and not just follow your gut feeling because you're skeptical towards something you maybe haven't seen yet in your life.
Nice. Then that actually brings us into our rapid fire round. So I just have four rapid fire questions for you. And one of these I feel like I might actually know the answer to. If you could be any energy asset, which would you be?
I would be the energy manager because
okay.
it connects all the devices with each other and also to the market. And without that, I wouldn't buy a PV system anymore, or any system basically, because otherwise I can save so much money. It's not smart. It's like buying an old dumb phone and not a smartphone. It's just not working anymore.
In your opinion, who is the bigger decarbonization hero, the heat pump or a PV panel?
The heat pump.
What is one thing you wish every German homeowner knew about energy management systems?
That they exist and that they need it. It's like the dumb phone and smartphone question again. People don't know really about it, but they should know about it and consider this in their purchase decision.
And then what do you think is more likely in the future, a heat pump in every home or a smart meter in every basement? I should say in a German home.
Yeah, that's very particular because the rollout rate of smart meters now in Germany is 2%.
We talk about it a lot on this podcast.
Yeah. Now we are catching up with like very good smart meters even. So they are very secure, but now we are slowly catching up with very secure and certified systems when it comes to smart meters. I hope both. Yeah, smart meters and heat pumps, and at least for private homes, not necessarily apartments. Like I live in an apartment, and I don't have big energy consumers in my place. So maybe I don't even need a smart meter. But for homes that own, let's say, an EV, a heat pump, a PV system, a battery, they need smart meters, and otherwise it doesn't make sense for them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We haven't had a heat pump episode yet, so this was great to have.
Thanks, Jota, for having me, and pump it up.
If you'd like to learn more about the world of renewable energy or energy management systems, be sure to check out our website, gridx.ai, where we produce regular blogs and glossaries about the subject. You can also follow us on LinkedIn or on Twitter and Instagram at GetGridX.